and sixes. 10, 9, 8, 76ers.
What's going on, everyone? This is UK 76ers. My name is Ben Glasspool, and last night the Philadelphia 76ers beat the Sacramento Kings by 129 points to 105, thereby extending the unbeaten run the Sixers have whenever I sleep through games, and indeed maintaining their extremely good form since the All-Star break, now at 5-1, with a lot of those games being either with only one of their stars or without them at all, which has been extremely impressive. So this game I was planning on staying up for. Admittedly, obviously I didn't. I just mentioned it before. I slept through it, and as a result, I woke up this morning to a nice surprise. I think the Ben Simmons injury was the nail in the coffin for me deciding I'm going to go to bed. I was really tired as it was. I was up at like 6 in the morning last night. This was a game I obviously had circled to stay up for, given that I can't stay up for all the ones in the midweek due to work. I'm hoping to compensate for this, I'll be able to stay up for the New York game later. We'll see how I go with that. But I woke up and I watched the game over, I want to say about 10 in the morning this morning, and it was just such a breath of fresh air. Look, this game is relatively inconsequential for the grand scheme of this season, and indeed for what it can really indicate in the long run for how we can do in the playoffs or whatever else. But it was just still fantastic to see. It was professional, it was energetic, everyone stayed on course, everyone was singing off the same hymn sheet, so to speak, and as a result we put in a fantastic performance against the Sacramento Kings, who roster-wise are good, coach-wise not so good, but at the same time you cannot underestimate these guys, nor can you just expect to go in with a win, especially when you haven't got Simmons, Curry and Embiid, 3 of your starting 5. But before we unpack what happened and why I enjoyed it so much, usual announcements: USA Sports merch, please check them out via the link below. The link, if you use it to make any purchase from the site, it not only helps them of course, but it helps me a ton too, so please check those guys out. Merch from all Big Four sports leagues, so if that's Philadelphia Eagles, if that's Philadelphia Phillies, if that's Sixers of course, or indeed the Philadelphia Flyers, they've got it all for you there, and every other team in between. Should you be that way inclined, go check them out today. Similarly, Visiball have provided once again with some fantastic stats for last night's game, as they do for every game, and not just Sixer games, your team's games. If you're not a Sixer fan, if you're a Laker fan, if you're a Celtics fan, if you're a Heat fan, whatever, they've got your team covered. Check it out on their site. It's easy to use, easy to navigate. They've got team stats, they've got player stats, they've got it all, and then it makes watching basketball a hell of a lot more fun when you've got these stats available to you, or at least I think so. Maybe that's because I'm a bit of a geek with this stuff, but I think it's a fantastic site, and I would implore any basketball fan to go and check those guys out today. So this game, I was, like I said, apprehensive. I was worried. I think this was one of those ones which we'd probably end up losing solely because I didn't think we'd have enough ammunition to really tear down this team. You've got the likes of De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, who all can on their night just go off and get 20, 30 plus points. Some of them average 20 plus or anyway, but you know what I mean. They got a lot of weapons in their arsenal, and we were obviously very depleted. So when we started that first quarter with 2 Danny Green threes, then a Tobias 3 off the dribble, and then Matisse steal, and then no, it was a Danny Green steal, sorry, alley-ooping up to Matisse. That really set the tone. You really couldn't ask for a better way to set the tone. A couple threes, Matisse getting the dunk. Of course, Matisse being the fan favorite, fires up the crowd. Everyone's ready to go. It was just a fantastic way to kick it off. It was an opening with an 11-2 run, and really from how we approached that first quarter, that was what in my opinion, what won us the game. Look, of course, there's plenty more basketball you played afterwards, but we had such a grand bit of separation. I want to say how many points? It was 42-21. We were 21 points up after the first quarter, and the Kings just couldn't get back. They really couldn't get back and try and really eat into that lead, because we have already done our business. We had done what we needed to do, and then everyone maintained that level of intensity right the way throughout. And look, I will talk about individuals, of course I will, as I so often do in these videos. And the first one I will talk about is the most obvious one, and that is Tobias Harris, who has once again shown us why he should have been an all-star. Now, I was one of the people that didn't have him in their all-star team. I think this year especially, both out east and out west, it was really hard. I feel like there's a larger pool of all-star talent, and that means obviously not everyone can become an all-star. And I do stick by Harris not getting an All-Star appearance in the time when I was voting. But for whatever reason, say, hypothetically speaking, the All-Star game was in a week or two, he would be on my list for sure. What he's doing with this team is he's not putting out empty stats. He's not just, going about his own business trying to make himself the center of attention. He's playing winning basketball on winning teams, and he's been the pioneer in that team with the likes of Simmons out, with the likes of Embiid out. And he was just fantastic. Let's read out his stat line. 29 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, 12 of 18 from the field, 2 of 3 from behind the arc. And those weren't easy threes either. A lot of them he created off the dribble, stepping into them. Oh, it's fantastic. And I mentioned it in my last video, his seeming newfound ability to just facilitate so easily, be that in the pick or roll, finding the right man, finding the pass, not overplaying things, not finding his shots in that mid-range. He's automatic. He really is. It's just, you can book it. It's just not, I'm not worried about Tobias Harris in the mid-range. It's notoriously one of the most inefficient shots, or just not one of the best shots to take in the modern NBA. But if you do it correctly, like Tobias does, I have no issue with it whatsoever. He's been fantastic, and it's aggression as well. We often think of Tobias Harris as a really nicey guy, but he's not going to really, body you or really get at you. He's doing that now. He's got that dog attitude all of a sudden, and he's been a breath of fresh air for this team, and he's being that third star. We often talk about, we need a Zach LaVine, we need a Bradley Beal, and that's not me saying I don't want one of those guys. Of course I'd take one of them. But we've got a guy here who's averaging just under 21 points, can facilitate, can rebound, can shoot, can create his own shot. And it's time to start appreciating him for what he's got. I'll be one of the first guys to admit, I was very much on the potentially trading Tobias thing. I had a blip where I even thought maybe trading for Kevin Love might be an option, and I apologise profusely, because that is one of the worst. This is why I'm not a GM, but that was one of the worst ideas I've ever had. Last season, of course, we all got on his back quite quickly. He became a bit of a pariah in Philadelphia, and he's turning all that around very quickly, because he is the real deal. And I'll tell you that for free. He is a very good NBA basketball player. Perennial all-star. I really hope one of these days he does make that all-star team. It will just be icing on top of the cherry on top of the cake. He just deserves it. I think he embodies everything good about a professional basketball player in the modern age. He's aware of himself. He's obviously very good at basketball, and he brings something to Philadelphia. He brings something to that team. He doesn't have like I said, that typical Philadelphia attitude, that Embiid or Mike Scott-esque sort of attitude. But what he's bringing is still so invaluable to this team, and I can't praise the guy enough. But who I wanted to talk about the most, this may come as a bit of a shock, and I can understand why people would be shocked. It's Tony Bradley. He finished on 14 points, 8 rebounds, on what was his shooting? 6 of 8. Now, Tony Bradley was brought in as a third-string center to sort of supplement what we had with Embiid and Howard, and also because he's a bit younger than Dwight, maybe it means that we can sort of let him grow, let him evolve into something which could resemble a really good backup center, a backup to Embiid. And we all know the issues that we've had with backup centers in the past, that when Embiid is off the floor, we really struggle. And look, this by no means saying, Tony Bradley's the guy. But I feel like I've seen an improvement in the limited minutes we had from him early on in the season to what we have now. And I think what I've been enjoying seeing from yesterday's game is the simplicity of his game. And I think with the centre, when you're building that sort of mould, like Tony Bradley, he's not a stretch 5, he's very much a typical, just a rebounding, rim protecting centre. That gets those easy buckets. When you put it like that, it feels like a very easy job, but unfortunately it's not an easy job. If it was an easy job, then having a good backup centre won't be an issue. And what he's bringing is doing the fundamentals as a traditional big like he is, well. And what I mean by that is that he's finding the correct positions, and because he's very easily forgotten about, because he is just Tony Bradley, he's not Joel Embiid, he's not Ben Simmons, he's not Tobias Harris. He can find his spots. He can get position on the centre, which in this case was Rashawn Holmes or Hassan Whiteside. And that, the intelligence of his positioning for me was something I noticed on the offensive end especially. Tobias would often find him in the post, and it wouldn't delay. He wouldn't dilly-dally. He would get the ball, make his move, and lay up. And more often than not, like I said, 6 of 8 from the field, he would make his layup with both left and or right hand. And Dwight's doing doing a very similar job. It's just that sort of just embracing the fundamentals of what you need to do as a centre, as a big man, and doing it well consistently. And we all know Dwight can be prone to being, brought into the heat of the moment, and perhaps as a result doing something quite silly. But recently he's been fantastic, and you guys know I've been a critic of Dwight, but I will happily laud him when he's doing something good and constructive for this team. But yeah, Tony Bradley, I think there's one little spin move that he did, finishing with his left hand. And I just think everything he's been doing in Joel Embiid's stead has been fantastic, and I really want to praise the guy, because this is all we want from him, really. Not that we really ask too much of the guy. He is, at the end of the day, our third string centre. But to see it, I think in any NBA team, who do you support, when you see a guy like him, who perhaps might not be the most confident ever, who's towards the end of the bench, doesn't get too many opportunities, it's really, really nice to just see someone do well. So, shout out to Tony Bradley, because I think he was fantastic yesterday. Like I said, we'll rightly give the praise to Tobias or Danny Green or Milton or Thibault, but I really want to sing his praises, because I was a real massive fan of what he was doing yesterday. It was simple basketball, it was effective basketball, good post play, getting his shot up quick, not eating time away, setting screens so that Tobias could get his spots. Fantastic, unselfish, doing what he needs to do to make this team win basketball games. Fantastic work from Tony Bradley, and long may it continue. So we talked about how in that first quarter, the Sixers just exploded out of the gate in a game which could have been. It's very easy to get worried about. And I've talked about it before, how our three-pointers only drop when Ben Simmons is assisting them. That's not this case at all. Danny Green continues his hot shooting, and the probably reason why you haven't heard about it is because no one praises Danny Green when he does well. The only time you'll hear about Danny Green is when he's doing pretty poorly, which is a shame. Every team's got a scapegoat, and unfortunately for us, it is Danny Green. And I think he's been fantastic recently. I think overall the season he's been fantastic for us. But because, it's very easy to criticise him, or because he's not quite what we envisioned. He's not Buddy Hield. He's not that real lockdown three-point shooter, nor is he the lockdown defender that he used to be. But he still offers something to this team. Of course he does. You sort of look at his production that he's had in the last couple of games, and he was fantastic yet again. What was he? He was 18 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, 7 field goals from 13, 4 or 6 from 3. And one of the steals, especially I recall, is that they had it in the backcourt. The Kings, I'm referring to, of course, and then he just goes in and steals. He wanted the ball more than anyone else. It's just that, again, it's that intensity, that willingness to win at all costs. And the guy's got 3 rings. He doesn't really need to be working this hard, but he is. He's got the attitude he has is impeccable. The ability to just keep going when I'm sure he knows the criticism that comes his way. It was fantastic, and again, all credit to Danny Green. He really, he was one of the reasons, the driving forces in the Sixer team. Like we talked about Harris and all that, but the threes he hit early on set the trend. The steals he made set the trend. We know how important steals can be for just momentum changes and whatever else, and he was fantastic yet again. And it's because he wants the ball at all times. He wants to bring that defensive prowess. He wants to bring that three-point shooting. In the last few games, you can't praise the guy enough. You really, really can't. The Kings, of course, did bounce back. Buddy Hield, we talk about how he potentially could be on the Sixers. I'm not sure how feasible that trade is anymore, or if it ever was. But he's 5 or 6 from behind the arc at the half. I want to say maybe 6 or 7. Seemingly couldn't miss, and of course that did drop off in the second half. But oh god, he was fun to watch. He was fun to watch. And the Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox are also just great guys to be watching at all times, and they're always going to bounce back. Such a the nature of their game. They're good players. They're elite players, arguably, and they're always going to try and bounce back and hit back against you. But we rode that storm, and at the half, we still maintained that 21-point lead. So really, it was just about keeping it professional, making sure we don't let any slip-ups, and making sure that we stay on top of this team, which is what we did in that third quarter. 33-28, outscored them by. We went up by 36 points, I believe, at one stage. And Shake Milton, this was his half. Now, in that first half, he did look like he was struggling. He really, really did. And I'll admit that when the Kings were looking like they're making a comeback, I was initially watching this game without knowing the score. I then went and checked the score just to reassure myself, do the Sixers win this game or not? And obviously I found out they did, and this was, like I said, I checked this about just late second quarter when the Kings were going on a bit of a run. And I checked the box score as a result, and Shake Milton finished on 28, and I was like, that can't be right. He's on about, I don't know, 7 or 8, and his shot's not falling. He's looking pretty poor. The shot was a bit, his shotting it in general recently has been quite flat. You want that arc. But it's a real testament to him that he can dust himself down at the half and be like, well, it's another quarter, it's another game, another half. I'm going to go out and just do what I need to do to help this team win. And he did that. He finished on 28 points. Yep, 28 points. He was 9 of 17, so he ended up having a pretty efficient day out. 1 or 2 from behind the arc. I still want his 3-point shot to just improve a bit more. I still don't think it's a fair reflection of who he is from behind the 3-point line. But, his stats don't lie. So this is where we're at with him right now. But he came back and he was positive. He was driving to the rim. And I think Al Abdenabi mentioned it in the commentary. I'm not worried when he gets to that mid-range point when he's going to the rim. And look, he's a 6'3", 6'4", not the biggest man ever, especially when you're going against, 5s at the rim. And he's getting his way a lot of the time. And all we want from him is just that sort of level of consistent explosion, I guess, from the bench, to be that sixth man, to be unafraid. I don't think he ever gets afraid or hesitant. I just want it a bit more on a consistent basis. But this was fantastic from him. I really want to see more of this, of course. But I think it's all about just making sure we can get a consistent stretch out of Shake. Because I think sometimes he's had a few niggly injuries. I want to say he had an ankle issue. So it's just about keeping him fit. And then maybe once we keep him fit, we can build up that confidence and get that shot improving, get that 3-point percentage up, and then we got him nice and ready for the playoffs. Now I know I'm not really talking much about the game because it was rather cut and dry. Because of how all you need to know is that first quarter we absolutely stormed the Kings, and then as a result we went on and did our own thing. But one thing I will talk about, overarching themes I saw from the game, is this penetration idea, and it's something I've been critical of with the Sixers in previous games throughout the season, that our offense is stagnant, that we need to move the ball around, we need to be penetrating, and this is what we saw today. We saw penetration, and it quite simply, penetration creates looks. Sometimes I thought we perhaps overly did it on the ball movement side of things, where I kind of would hope that people would be a bit more selfish, but that's a really niggly criticism I've got, that it's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. But we saw it when people are penetrating from the corner, when you're moving their defenders. That's when the looks open up. And I remember one time we kept, we moved the ball about, a few bits of dribble drives to Dwight Howard. I think honestly it was Mike Scott shipped it onto him. Lovely dunk. Dwight again finished on 10 and 13, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. He thrives off this crowd. He's the king of just getting people hyped up for the Frosty freeze out stuff. It's fantastic to see. Long may it continue, because you do want that backup centre for the playoffs, and thankfully we've got 2 centres now in Tony Bradley and Dwight Howard, who will both be thinking, well, if I just keep performing like I am, I'll either keep my place as the backup centre or I'll earn that place as the backup centre. So that's a nice bit of healthy competition we've got. But yeah, I did like the ball movement we had. I thought there was a level of fearlessness in how we were going about our approach, ruthlessness as well. Which is just what we want. It's all I want personally as well. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things, or we always go looking for the same people, and understandably so. But if we can mix things up, we can show that we have faith in our, fringe players, I guess. If we have faith in our fringe players to hit shots, to make plays, then that makes life a whole lot more difficult for any opponent, because not only have you got to worry about Embiid or Simmons or Harris, well, you've got to worry about Curry or Green or Korkmaz or Thibault doing things if everyone's confident in their own ability to do things. So that was great to see. Tyrese Maxey had a decent run out. He finished on 9 points, so it wasn't all garbage time. He did his usual stuff, and I think we've seen it with rookies. Perhaps they start well, which of course Tyrese did. Had a bit of a lull. Perhaps he should be taken out the limelight, let him recharge the batteries, and go back out again. So I'm hoping we can get a nice little stretch out of Tyrese for the remainder of the season, where we know he can play his best basketball, which a game which will only improve given his age. But it was really nice to see him back. B-ball Paul got a bit of a run out. I just find it fun whenever he's out there. His nickname is the best nickname in the NBA as far as I'm concerned. Really like B-ball Paul, and he really can offer something to this team if he can just get that outside shot sorted. But in the mid range, in the paint, He's a nice old-fashioned 4, put it that way. And I really think he's got something to offer this team going forward, for sure. So whenever he's on the court, I'm loving it. Korkmaz had a nice 7 points, not the most prolific period of time behind the arc, but nonetheless he still brought something. And we finished this game quite comfortably with a 24-point lead. It's just, you know, it was just a real breath of fresh air. And I think I've overused that phrase so many times on these videos. But it really, really was. We got a really tough run of games coming up, starting in New York at the Garden, and then we go out west to play Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Clippers, Los Angeles Lakers, and it's going to be really tough. It really is going to be tough, especially without our best players. I'm not sure the state of Simmons is. I'm sure he'll play feature somewhere in that West Coast trip at the very least. Embiid, no, he won't. I can't even imagine he's going to fly out west, to be honest. So it's going to be tough, but the thing is, what I will emphasize is that if we go to this trip and we don't win any games, which is a very real possibility, to be honest, don't lose your heads. Don't lose your heads. It's going to be frustrating, and I might even get frustrated and even lose my head. But when the dust settles, when you take in a bit of perspective, you realise this isn't the Sixers. This isn't a fair reflection of who we are, what we're going to do later on in the season. We might even make a trade sooner or later that may change up this roster so drastically that it would be unfair to link what we have now to what we were doing then, if that makes sense. But yeah, let's just take as it comes, see what happens. Maybe a few nice surprises here and there. If we could just win, you know, one of those 3 games against the Warriors, the Clippers and the Lakers, I think I'll be pretty happy, to be quite frank. 2, brilliant. 3, obviously, that would be magnificent. Is it realistic? I don't know. Don't really think so. But you just never know with this team. You really, really don't. You just got to wait and see. We seemingly have turned a corner. Our bench is really producing. Do I still trust it in the long run? I don't think so. But you know, I'm not complaining. If they're going to do well, they're going to do well. I have no agendas. I want the Sixers to win basketball games. I want the Sixers to win championships. And if it's with this bench, I'm cool. If it's with a different bench that needs to be improved on, I'm cool. I just want to win. But anyway, that's all from me, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you all next time for the New York game. Thanks very much, guys.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.